Hello everyone, welcome to EduTap and welcome to today's session. So today we are going to discuss the important data points, the important MCQs for the Union Budget. The Union Budget, this is a document that is important for your NABARD grade A, RBI grade B, SEBI grade A for all the regulatory body examination. The Union Budget is very important that you cannot miss at all, okay? And in today's session we will discuss that what are the important data points that you should not miss out, that you should focus on. So what are the important data points from the Union Budget from your examination perspective that we are going to discuss in today's session through the important MCQs, okay? So give me a big thumbs up that I hope I'm clearly audible and visible. So give me a thumbs up if everything is fine, if I'm clearly audible and visible. So give me a thumbs up. And in today's session, we will discuss the data points that are important from the Union Budget. From this document, the important data points we are going to discuss in today's session through the important MCQs. Okay, so let's get started without any delay. And I hope I'm clearly audible and the screen is visible. So let's get started. But before that, do subscribe to the YouTube channel of EduTap so that you continue getting the relevant videos, and do join our Telegram channel in which you will get the PDF of the session. Okay, so the PDF of the session you will get in the Telegram channel. And in today's session, we are going to discuss the multiple MCQs so that you get the idea that what data you have to focus on from the Union Budget. So let's get started. This is the first question in front of you, and we are going to start with an easy question, as well as remember that the MCQs that I have brought, they are prepared from the perspective that the questions from Union Budget, they come in the phase 1, as well as the questions from the Union Budget, they come in the phase 2. Okay, so the questions, they are statement based questions also, there are one-liner questions also. So from the perspective of phase 1 and phase 2, the questions have been brought for you. So the first question is in front of you, a very easy question that you should know about. According to the budget 2026-27, which of the following correctly represents the second kartavya of the government? So as you know that in the Union Budget of 2026-27, there are three kartavyas. Okay, first kartavya, second kartavya and third kartavya that has been given by the government. What is the third kartavya? What is the second kartavya of the government? So that is very good. Fulfill aspirations of our people. What is the first kartavya? That is acceleration and the sustain economic growth. This is the first kartavya. This is the second kartavya, and this is the third kartavya of the government. Okay, so this is the answer. The C is the answer here. So as you know that the Union Budget, this is constitutionally termed as the annual financial statement. So remember that from the phase 1 as well as from the phase 2 perspective, the static knowledge is also important. So the Union Budget, it is released every year, or it is provided every year as per the article 112 of the constitution. Okay, this is the government's blueprint, this is the government's plan for the upcoming financial year. So for the upcoming 2026-27, that is this financial year, for the upcoming financial year, the government provides a statement of estimated receipts, that how much the government is expecting to receive and how much the government is expecting to spend, in what areas the government is expecting to spend. So this kind of statement of the estimated receipts of the government and the estimated expenditure of the government, this has to be laid before Parliament in respect of every financial year, which runs from 1st April to 31st March. Okay, and the Union Budget, it is also known as annual financial statement, that is released every year and it is laid before the Parliament under the article 112. This is mandated. Okay, now the Union Budget for the 2026-27, this is a Yuva Shakti driven budget, and there are three kartavyas that you must remember. The first one is accelerate and sustain economic growth, second is fulfill the aspirations of our people, and third is vision of Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas. Now coming to the second question, there are 6 pillars that have been laid down in the Union Budget of 2026-27. So which of the following correctly represents the pillars of growth and development as outlined in the Union Budget of 2026-27? So this kind of question can come in your phase 1 also. This kind of question can come in your phase 2 also. Okay, so try to answer this question. I hope you will be able to remember this. The 6 pillars of the growth and development. Okay, these have been outlined in the Union Budget 2026-27. I hope you remember. So people-centric development, this is one of the pillar. Trust-based governance, this is also a pillar of the growth and development. Financial inclusion, this was not laid down as the pillar. Okay, sustaining the economic growth, this is another pillar, and strengthening the foundations of growth, this is another pillar. So that is 2, 3, 5 and 6. So D is the answer here. I hope you were able to identify that the pillars of growth and development are these. Okay, so these are the pillars of growth and development. In total, there are 6 pillars of growth and development: sustaining the economic growth, strengthening the foundation of growth. Not only do we want to continue with the economic growth, we also want to have a strengthened foundation of the growth so that we can continue with the economic growth for a long period of time. People-centric development, we need trust-based governance, ease of doing business and ease of living, and fiscal matters. Okay, so these are the pillars of the growth and development: the sustaining economic growth, strengthening the foundations of growth, people-centric development, and trust-based governance. Okay, now coming to the next question, try to answer this question: that analyze the fiscal deficit projections present in the budget 2026-27, the fiscal deficit and the deficit projections basically presented in the budget 2026-27. Remember this, that all the deficits, they are very important. Let it be the fiscal deficit, let it be the primary deficit, or the revenue deficit, or the effective revenue deficit. All these deficits are very, very important. Okay, so the question is, the first statement is that revised estimate for the fiscal deficit in 2025-26 stands at 4.4% of GDP. So the fiscal deficit for 2025-26 was 4.4% of GDP. Yes, right? The budget estimate of the fiscal deficit for 2026-27 is estimated at 4.3% of GDP. So there is the reduction in the fiscal deficit that is budgeted. So that is good and that is absolutely correct. The budget estimate for 2026-27 states that the fiscal deficit for the coming financial year will be at 4.3% of the GDP. This is the projection that is given. Now the budget estimate for 2026-27 projects a reduction of the primary deficit to 3.2% of the GDP. So is it projected that the primary deficit will be 3.2% of GDP? No, the primary deficit is not budgeted, or it is not shown at 3.2% of the GDP. It is rather how much? It is rather how much? It is 0.7% of the GDP. So first and second statements are correct, but the third statement is wrong. Okay, so the answer here is A, that is only 1 and 2. So remember that the deficit trends, this is what you have to remember. The 4.4% as per the 2025-26 revised estimates, the 4.4% is the fiscal deficit, while it is estimated to be, or it is projected to be at 4.3%. Okay, while the primary deficit is at 0.7%, not 3.2% or something. Now what is the formula of fiscal deficit? Again, the static is also important. What is the formula of fiscal deficit? And this formula of fiscal deficit is even given in the document of budget also. So the fiscal deficit is the total expenditure minus total receipts of the government, the total expenditure minus total receipts, excluding the debt capital receipts or the debt creating receipts. So remember that the deficit is when the government is spending more than what the government is receiving. So this is the deficit when the government is spending more than what the government is receiving. So fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipts, excluding the debt creating capital receipts or the debt capital receipts. Okay, so excluding the borrowings basically, or the debt creating receipts. Now primary deficit, what is the formula of the primary deficit? The formula of primary deficit is the fiscal deficit minus the interest payments, okay. So the fiscal deficit, it is estimated to be, or it is projected to be at 4.3%. It is projected to be 4.3% of the GDP for 2026-27, and the primary deficit is projected to be 0.7% of the GDP in 2026-27. So these are the data points that are important. Okay, so this is the idea. Now moving forward, coming to the next question, the Union Budget 2026-27 proposes a three-pronged approach to help micro, small and medium enterprises grow as champions. Remember this very clearly, that it is considered that the MSMEs, they are very important for employment generation. They are very important for the growth of the country and for the growth of the far off areas, for the growth of the different areas, and to bring the regional balance and to include the different segments and the different areas of our country in the growth. The MSMEs are very important and they do generate a lot of employment. So MSMEs, they are considered important for the country. And what is the three-pronged approach that is taken to help the MSMEs to grow as champions of India? So budget dedicated 10,000 crores to the Small and Medium Enterprises Growth Fund. Absolutely correct. So a huge budget is allocated for the small and medium enterprises growth fund. The budget top up, see there is a self-reliant India fund. Through this self-reliant India fund, there is the investment that happens in the equity of the MSMEs. Okay. So basically, through the SRI, that is through the Self-Reliant India Fund, there is the investment that happens in the MSMEs. The investment happens in the equity of the MSMEs, so that the MSMEs can get the funds. Okay. Now the budget top-up. A top-up is provided. The additional funds we can say, or the top-up is provided in the Self-Reliant India Fund with 2,000 crores, not 5,000 crores. So a top-up is provided to the Self-Reliant India Fund that is of 2,000 crores. Remember this, okay? The government to facilitate professional institutions to develop corporate mitras, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, to help MSMEs meet compliance requirements at affordable cost. This is absolutely correct. So first is correct, third is correct, and that's why the right answer is C here. The right answer is C here. It is not 5,000 crore, it is 2,000 crore, okay? So this is what you have to remember. So equity support is going to be provided by the government. So the government is saying that a dedicated 10,000 crore of small and medium enterprise growth fund is created, and this is the 10,000 crore that will go to the small and medium enterprises growth fund. A top up for the Self-Reliant India Fund with 2,000 crores. So Self-Reliant India Fund aims to provide support for the MSMEs across the country through equity infusion, that is the government. It provides the funds to the micro, small and medium enterprises by taking a part of the shares, a part of the ownership. Okay, so it is not a debt to the MSMEs, it is like the equity infusion that is happening. So this is the idea. Now the professional support, the government to facilitate professional institutions to develop corporate mitras, especially in tier 2 and tier 3, to help the MSMEs. As well as another very important point is that there is the removal of the current value cap of 10 lakh per consignment on courier exports. So if the exports were happening and there were courier exports that were happening, that is through the courier the material was going out of the country. So for the courier exports there was the cap, or there was the limit of 10 lakh rupees per consignment. Now this has been removed, so you can understand that the courier exports can be of higher value also. As well as there is the support that is provided to the trade receivables discounting system. This trade receivables discounting system is very important for the MSMEs to get the funds against their bills, against their bill invoices. Okay, so trade receivables discounting system, we have discussed this in previous videos, or we will discuss in the future. Basically the idea is that through the trade receivables discounting system, the bill invoices can be like, the MSMEs can raise funds against the bill invoices. Okay, for this also, for the trades also, there are different steps that the government has taken. Coming to the next question, try to answer this, that with reference to renewing the emphasis on the services sector in the Union Budget 2026-27, consider the following statements. Again, the service sector, it is the sector that is having the highest share in the gross value addition. More than 50% of the share in the gross value addition is from the service sector, and there is the renewed emphasis that is given to the service sector. Try to answer this question. The budget proposes schemes to support states in establishing 5 hubs for medical tourism in partnership with the private sector. We know that the medical services or the healthcare services in our country is more affordable in comparison to countries like US. So we do get a lot of medical tourism that we want to further expand. So the budget has proposed to support the states in establishing 5 hubs. 5 hubs for medical value tourism in partnership with private sector. Absolutely correct. 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda, upgrading the Ayush pharmacies, drug testing labs for higher standards for certification of the certification ecosystem. Absolutely correct. Now the budget announces setting up of a new National Institute of Design through the challenge route in Western region. No, it is for the Eastern region. It is for the Eastern region. So this is wrong. The budget has announced a new National Institute of Design through the challenge route in Eastern region of India. So the first and second statements are correct, and that's why the answer here is A. Okay, so the renewed emphasis on the service sector, for that there is a high powered education to employment and enterprise standing committee that has been established. We will discuss more about it in another question. There is also the focus that is given to health care system, that is National Skills Qualification Framework aligned program to train 1.5 lakh multi-skilled caregivers. Then medical tourism is the focus. Ayush, that is 3 new All India Institutes of Ayurveda is focused on. Orange economy, that is the creator economy basically. So the content creator labs are being created, 15,000. So setting up the AVGC content creator labs in 15,000 secondary schools and 500 colleges. So this is also very big, that animation, videos and such. For that there is the labs that will be created. Now design and then sports. Coming to the tourism, for tourism also, pilot scheme for upskilling 10,000 guides in 20 iconic tourist sites, as well as the India is going to host the first ever global big cat summit. Okay, develop 15 archaeological sites into vibrant experiential cultural destinations, as well as there is also like this is more important from the NABARD perspective now. Okay, if you are giving the NABARD examination, then this will be more important, that there is the focus that is given to develop ecologically sustainable mountain trails. Mountain trails, of course, if it will be in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Jammu and Kashmir, where the mountains are. Turtle trails along key nesting sites in coastal areas of Odisha, Karnataka and Kerala, and bird watching trails in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. So different states are the focus areas, and there will be the development of the sustainable mountain trails, turtle trails, bird watching trails in the select states for the development of tourism further. So tourism is also focused on. Education is also focused on a girls hostel in every district in higher, where the higher education STEM institutions are present. Okay, so this is for education. Answer writing, if you are preparing for answer writing for education, the points are here. For the healthcare or for the health, the data is here that you can write down in a page. Next, coming to the next question, as per the measure proposed under the financial sector in the Union Budget 2026-27, the incentive of how much will be provided for the single issuance of municipal bonds of more than 1,000 crore. So basically it is said that if the local body, that is the municipal corporation, if it releases in a single issuance the 1,000 crores worth of the municipal bond, then the central government is going to provide the incentive of 100 crores to the corporation. So this is the basic idea, that the incentive of 100 crores will be provided to the municipal corporation or to the local body for single issuance of municipal bonds of more than 1,000 crores. So this is the answer. Okay. So basically, financial sector, there is the focus that is given to set up the high-level committee on banking for Viksit Bharat to align with India's next growth phase. So banking sector, it is going to have a big role in the next growth phase of India. The incentive of 100 crores will be provided by the central government for the single issuance of municipal bonds of more than 1,000 crores. Okay, as well as the focus is given to restructure the Power Finance Corporation and Rural Electrification Corporation, the NBFCs that are focusing on the energy and the power in our country. So this is the basic idea. Moving forward, as per the text proposals for financial sector in the Union Budget 2026-27, the STT, that is the securities transaction tax. So if you are transacting in the securities in the financial market, okay, in the financial market you are transacting in the securities, you have to pay the securities transaction tax on the futures. This has been raised from 0.02% to how much, and the STT, that is securities transaction tax on the options premium and the exercise of options has been raised to how much, from 0.1% and 0.125% respectively. So basically for the futures, the STT has been increased to 0.05%, and for the options the STT has been increased to 0.15%. So there is the increase in securities transaction tax. These are the percentages that you have to remember. Okay, so this is the idea, that the STT, that is the securities transaction tax. Now I have brought the full forms in the PPT itself, so that when you get the PDF you do not have to search through different full forms and such. Okay, so raising the STT on futures from 0.02% to 0.05%, and STT on the options futures, they both are the derivatives that derive their value from the underlying asset. Okay, so the options, the STT has been raised on options also to 0.15%. 8%. Coming to the next question, again important question from NABARD perspective, from RBI perspective. As per the Union Budget 2026-27, the integrated development of how many reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars has been proposed to strengthen the fisheries value chains and market linkages? More important from the NABARD perspective, try to answer this question. Yes, 500. Very good. So the idea is that there will be 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars that has been proposed to strengthen the fisheries value chains and market linkages. So increasing the farmers' income by enhancing the productivity in agriculture and allied sectors. So if you are collecting the material and you are collecting the data points to write for answer for the agriculture topic, or the agriculture is a topic in your syllabus and you are trying to have a page of the fodder material, you can write all these steps. Dedicated program for horticulture, animal husbandry, supporting high value agriculture through the coconut promotion scheme as well as through the Indian cashew and cocoa programs. This we will discuss in more details because this is important point. Then fisheries, for the fisheries, the integrated development of 500 reservoirs and Amrit Sarovars that will strengthen the fisheries value chain. Then the sandalwood is also the focus area. Bharat Vistar is also a focus area. Now these important points we are going to discuss in separate question. Let's move forward then, okay? But this particular slide, it is more important from the agriculture perspective, and if you are collecting the fodder material for agriculture, this is the fodder material that you have. Now, a dedicated program is proposed for Dash in Budget 2026-27 that primarily aims to achieve self-reliance in their production and processing, enhance the export competitiveness and transform them into premium global brands by 2030. So which are the focus areas that are there? Now just remember that what we have discussed in the previous slide, that okay, coconut promotion scheme is there. For cashew and cocoa, there is some incentive or there is some like focus area on cashew and cocoa and sandalwood. So here particularly cashew and cocoa is being talked about, okay? So C is the answer. A dedicated program has been launched or it is proposed for cocoa and cashew in Budget 2026-27 that primarily aims to achieve self-reliance, okay? So here you can see that increasing farmers' income. So this particular paragraphs are taken from the budget speech of our finance minister. So high value agriculture to diversify the farm outputs, increase the productivity and enhance the farmers' income and create new employment opportunities. We will support, that means the finance minister is saying that we will support high value crops such as coconut, sandalwood, cocoa, cashew in our coastal areas, agar tree in the northeast and nuts such as almonds, walnuts, pine nuts in our hilly regions. There is a coconut promotion scheme that has been launched or that is proposed by the finance minister, as well as there is the dedicated program that is proposed for the Indian cashew and cocoa to make it the premium global brand by 2030. So that is the focus area, okay? Next, under the Union Budget 2026-27, what is the quantum of support proposed for states under the special assistance to the states for capital investment scheme? So there is special assistance that is provided to the states for the capital investment under this particular scheme. What is the quantum of support that is proposed for the states? And this particular scheme was also focused on, or this particular scheme was also mentioned in the state finances that we have discussed very recently, okay? So this is an important scheme because it is focusing on the capital investment by the states, and the special assistance is being provided by the government. So here how much is the quantum of support? That is 2 lakh crore. Okay, so this is the quantum of support, and this particular scheme is quite in news because it was also focused on in the state finances report, okay? So here you can see that there is the 2 lakh crore of support to the states under the special assistance for states for the capital investment scheme, okay? Launching a seaplane VGF scheme, that is viability gap fund scheme. So viability gap fund scheme is basically for providing the gap in the funds. So if let's say you have a particular amount of funds but that is not sufficient and you require some X amount extra, and your project is viable, your seaplane project is viable for the indigenous manufacturing. So let's say you have 500 crores but you require 50 crores more. So this 50 crores will be funded by the government. So this is a launch of the seaplane viability gap fund scheme. So if your project is viable and you are doing the indigenous manufacturing of the seaplane, So for your indigenous manufacturing, the gap that is coming in the funds that the government will provide. So that is the basic idea. Okay. So operationalizing 20 new national waterways connecting mineral rich areas, industrial centers and ports. So this is important steps that have been taken in the infrastructure segment. The special assistance for the states for the capital investment, the seaplane viability gap fund scheme, as well as 20 new national waterways. This is something that you can remember. Okay. Now coming to the next question, try to answer this question. Which of the following best describes the growth connectors initiative under urbanization city economic regions in budget 2026-27? So what are the growth connectors basically? What are the growth connectors? Or how many growth connectors do we have? So under the growth connectors, so which of the following best describes the growth connectors? So the construction of 7 high-speed rail corridors between major city pairs. So this is the growth connectors. This is the growth connectors. Yes, B is the right answer. Very good, everyone. So basically under the urbanization city economic regions, remember that urbanization, this is again a topic in your syllabus. So if you need to have the fodder material for your answer writing, you can use these points from the budget. Okay. So amplifying the potential of cities to deliver the economic power of agglomerations, focus on tier 2 and tier 3 cities and temple towns. Especially in the budget speech, it was said that the concentration has to be reduced, the density has to be reduced from the tier 1 cities. So there is the focus that should be given to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities so that they can accommodate the heavy density and they can accommodate the population. Growth connectors, so it is said that 7 high speed rail corridors between cities Mumbai Pune, Pune Hyderabad, Hyderabad Bengaluru, Hyderabad Chennai, Chennai Bengaluru, Delhi Varanasi, Varanasi Siliguri, these will be environmentally sustainable passenger systems. Okay, so 7 high speed rail corridors as the growth connectors. Coming to the next question, that is again important, she marts. So to foster the rural women in entrepreneurship. So to foster the rural women entrepreneurship, the budget 2026-27 proposes the establishment of she marts. These outlets are best described as which of the following? Again, this point becomes important from your gender equality point of view, from the women empowerment point of view, that the government has taken this step to establish the she marts. That will be what? Yes, community owned retail outlets. Very good. Because owning the retail outlet single-handedly might be very expensive. If you want to have the retail output, if you want to buy the retail outlet, that might be very expensive. So it will be like as a different individuals they can invest. So this will be a community owned retail outlet operated through cluster level federations. Okay, so this is the idea that to foster the rural women entrepreneurship, the budget has proposed the establishment of she marts that will be the community owned retail outlets operated through cluster level federations. Okay, so this is the idea for the she marts. Again, this is taken from the budget speech, that building on the success of the Lakpati Didi program, that is the finance minister, proposes to help women take the next step from credit led livelihoods to being owners of enterprises. Self help entrepreneur marts will be set up as community owned retail outlets within the cluster level federations through enhanced and innovative financing instruments. Okay, so this is the idea. Now this is the people centric development. So out of the 6 pillars, this is the third pillar, that is the people centric development. So building a strong care ecosystem, training 1.5 lakh caregivers. She marts that will be set up as the community owned retail outlets within the cluster level federation. Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana and Divyang Sahara Yojana, a question like we will discuss a question on that. Then this also comes under the same question. Okay, PM Divyasha Kendras as modern retail style centers and setting up of the Nimhans to establishing the emergency and trauma care centers in district hospitals. So these are the people-centric development initiatives of the government or the union budget. To address the gap in mental health infrastructure, particularly in North India, the budget 2026-27 proposes the establishment of which of the following? So try to answer this. National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences 2. So this is the answer. So Nimhans 2. Nimhans 2. So basically as per the budget speech, there are no national institutes for mental health care in North India. So we will therefore set up NIMHANS 2 and also upgrade the national mental health institutes in Ranchi and Tejpur as regional apex institutions. So under the people-centric development, this is a initiative that has been taken that the NIMHANS 2 will be established in particularly in North India for the mental health infrastructure in North India. Okay, so remember this. This is also important. Now, regarding the Purvodaya and Northeast development initiatives in budget 2026-27, consider the following. So, to bring the regional balance and to help in the development of the Northeast regions, there is the step that has been taken that you have to answer. So, integrated East Coast Industrial Corridor is to be developed with a node at Durgapur. So, this is actually correct. The Buddhist Circuit. Have you heard about the Buddhist Circuit? In the different sessions that you have taken for the budget. I hope you heard about the Buddhist Circuit Development Scheme that covers states, because we are talking about Northeast. So of course, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, or like Northeast states will be focused on, and the traditions will be focused on for the Buddhist Circuit Development Scheme. The Purvodaya initiative includes the deployment of 10,000 e-buses. Does it not seem like too much of a number? So 10,000 is not correct, actually 4,000 e-buses. Okay, so Purvodaya initiative includes the deployment of 4,000 e-buses. Now read the question. The question is about which statements is or are incorrect. Incorrect. So which statement is incorrect? Third statement is incorrect because it is not 10,000 e-buses, it is only 4,000 e-buses. Okay, so here Purvodaya. So as per the budget speech, the finance minister proposed the development of an integrated East Coast Industrial Corridor with a well-connected node at Durgapur, and there is the provision of 4,000 e-buses, not 5,000, not 10,000, it is 4,000 e-buses. There is the creation of 5 tourism destinations in the 5 Purvodaya states. Okay, Buddhist sites in northeastern region. So the northeastern region is a civilization confluence of various traditions. So the finance minister proposed to launch a scheme for development of Buddhist circuit in Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura. Okay. Coming to the next question, very important question. So Finance Commission, I'm soon going to bring a session on the Finance Commission. Okay. The next session, I think on Saturday, Friday, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting will conclude. So on Saturday, we will have the session on Monetary Policy Committee. And after that, on the next session, we will discuss the Finance Commission in detail. Okay, so all the important points of the Finance Commission we will be discussing. Based on the recommendations of the 16th Finance Commission as accepted by the government in Union Budget 2026-27, the vertical devolution share of taxes to states has been retained at what percentage? So very important from your SEBI perspective, RBI, NABARD, from all the examination perspective, this is important. So basically what happens that the central government, from its tax, from the tax that is collected by the central government, so from the net proceeds of tax, net proceeds of tax means total tax that is collected by the central government minus the expenditure that the government did to collect the tax. So expenditure on tax collection minus the cess and surcharge. So from the total tax that is collected by the central government, deduct the expenditure on the tax collection, deduct the cess and surcharge, then whatever is left is the net proceeds of tax. From the net proceeds of tax, the central government has to provide, from the net proceeds of tax, the central government has to provide a share to the state governments. That is known as vertical devolution of tax. Okay, so basically how much of the vertical devolution share of taxes that is gone to the states? 41% of net proceeds of tax is going to the state government. So answer is C here. So this is the idea that this is the vertical devolution. So basically the share of states in the central taxes is recommended at 41% by the 16th Finance Commission, same as recommended by the 15th Finance Commission. So idea is that the central government, from its net proceeds of taxes, that is the total taxes minus the expenditure on tax collection minus the cess and surcharge, so whatever is left is the net proceed of taxes. From that, the central government has to give 41% as the share to the state governments. Okay, that is the vertical devolution of 41%. So this is the idea. As well as another important point to remember is that as recommended by the Finance Commission, the 1.4 lakh crore of grants are provided to the states for the financial year 2026-27 as the Finance Commission grants. 1.4 lakh crore is being provided to the states as finance commission grants. These include rural, urban local body and disaster management grants. Okay. Coming to the next question, again a very important question, because this is the target for 2030, 2031. So this target has to be achieved by the year 2030, 2031. So budget 2026-27 reaffirms the government's fiscal consolidation path. What is the target? Debt to GDP ratio set to be achieved by year 2030-2031. So basically fiscal consolidation means that the government is focusing on reducing its fiscal deficit. That is, the government is focusing on reducing its borrowing requirement. The government is focusing on reducing its debt burden. That is important, okay? And for that, the target debt to GDP ratio is 50%, 50% plus minus 1%. So this target has to be achieved by the year 2030-2031. So C is the right answer. Very good, everyone. Now, this is the target for the 2030-2031. Now, the debt to GDP ratio, this is estimated to be 55.6% of GDP for the budget estimate, as per the budget estimate for 2026-27. So this is the budget estimate. This is the estimate for the 2026-27 that the debt to GDP ratio will be 55.6% of GDP. That is lower than the 56.1% of GDP as per the revised estimates of 2025-26. Okay. Coming to the next question, try to answer this question. Now, the Bharat Vistar, this is a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICR package on agricultural practices with the AI system. So this Bharat Vistar is particularly for the agricultural practices. This shall be integrated with the AgriStack portals and the ICAR, that is Indian Council for Agri Research package. Okay. Now, what is the full form of Vistar? What does the Vistar stand for? This is particularly from the phase 1 perspective. It is important from the phase 1 perspective. So Vistar stands for, very good, virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. So Vistar, Bharat Vistar, this has been proposed to be launched. The Bharat Vistar is a multilingual AI tool that shall integrate the AgriStack portals and the ICAR, that is Indian Council for Agricultural Research package on agricultural practices with AI systems. So this is the virtually integrated system to access agricultural resources. Now, coming to the next question, again an important question, important data point that you have to remember, because the liberalized remittance scheme, this is the scheme of the Reserve Bank of India, so it is important, as well as the overseas tour packages, the tax collected at source has been reduced. So this is also important. TDS, that is for manpower services. So all of these points are important. So let's discuss. The budget 2026-27 proposes a significant changes under the ease of living measures in direct taxation. The TCS, that is the tax collected at source on overseas tour packages, has been reduced from 5 to 20% to a flat how much percent? The TDS, see, manpower services like the security services that is provided, or the house help services that is provided, or the helper or the gardener services that is provided. Now, some of the institutions were showing these services as the contractual payment, while some others were showing it as professional service or technical service. So for contractual payments, the TDS was 2%, while for professional service, the tax deducted at source was 10%. So you can understand that there was difference for the same kind of services. Just because it was shown differently, different kind of tax was being collected. The tax deductible at source was either 2% or 10%. That was creating problems and inconsistencies. So now it has been said that for all the manpower services, let it be the security services, house help, helper, gardener, all these services, the manpower services will have the tax deductible at source either 1 to 2%. Okay. So this 10%, it will not be shown as professional service. It will not be shown as technical service. So this is also a big update and very good information for all those people that were getting 10% of the tax deducted at source just because the services were shown as professional or technical services. So tax collected at source on overseas tour packages has been reduced from the range of 5 to 20% to a flat 2%. Okay. The TDS tax deducted at source on manpower services has been introduced with a range of 1 to 2% only. The tax collected at source rate for pursuing education and for medical purposes under the liberalized remittance scheme reduced from. So the tax collected at source has been reduced from 5% to 2% for the education and medical purposes under the liberalized remittance scheme. So this is again a good news. So first is wrong, second and third are right, and that's why the answer is B here. Sorry, the answer is B here. Okay, because the first is wrong. The first is wrong. The second and third are correct. So this is the idea. The B is the answer. The first is wrong because it is not flat 5%, it is flat 2%. So remember that sale of overseas tour program package including expenses for travel for hotel and such. So 5% or 20%. The tax collected at source was either 5% or 20%. Now it has been reduced to only flat 2%. For the remittance under liberalized remittance scheme for the education and medical treatment, for these purposes, the tax collected at source has been reduced from 5% to 2%. So this is the idea. As well as for the manpower, for the manpower services, the tax deductible at source was having ambiguity. Some were taking at 2%, some were having the tax deductible at source at 10%. So now it has come to a range of 1 to 2%. So the contractors, the payments to contractors will be at 1 to 2%. Okay, so this is the idea. Now there were other like change in rates. For alcoholic liquor, the rate has been proposed at 2% rather than 1%. For tendu leaves, the current rate is 5%, which is decided to be changed to 2% and such. The most important data points are these that we have discussed. Okay, that is regarding your overseas tour package and remittance under the liberalized remittance scheme, especially for education and medical treatment, which has been decreased to 2%, and for manpower services the TDS will now range from 1% to 2%. Coming to the next question, so under the one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme, so let's say you have not disclosed your foreign asset. So now to provide some kind of relaxation, there is a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme that has been proposed. So just by paying a fee or just by paying a penalty, you can come out of this situation and you will not be prosecuted. You will not be prosecuted, you will not have to go to jail, or you will not be prosecuted basically because there is a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme that has been proposed. So so there are two categories. In the category A, let's say you have not disclosed your overseas income, you have not declared your assets. Okay, the category B is that you have disclosed the overseas income but you have not declared the assets. So in this case of the category B, what is the fee structure that you will have to give so that you are not prosecuted or you do not pay the penalty? So this is a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme for the category A and category B. Category A is someone who has not disclosed the overseas income and has not declared the overseas asset. So they will have to pay more penalties, while the category B is just they have disclosed the overseas income but they forgot to declare the assets. So for them, the flat fee of 1 lakh rupees will be taken. So A is the answer here. Okay. So this is the idea that to address the practical issues of small taxpayers like students, young professional, tech employees, relocated non-resident Indians that were not aware about the rules and regulations much. So for them, a one-time 6-month foreign asset disclosure scheme has been launched so that these taxpayers can disclose their income or assets below a certain size. So this scheme would be applicable for two categories. First, category A, who did not disclose their overseas income or asset. Second, who disclosed their overseas income but they did not disclose their asset. Category A, the limit of undisclosed income or asset is proposed to be up to 1 crore. So if the undisclosed income or asset is up to 1 crore, that means these are small taxpayers. They need to pay 30% of fair market value of asset, 30% of undisclosed income as tax, and 30% as additional income tax as the penalty. And this, through this, they will get the immunity from prosecution. So they have to pay 30% of fair market value of asset. They have to give 30% of the undisclosed income as tax, and they have to pay 30% as the additional income tax to get the immunity from prosecution. For category B, because they disclosed their overseas income, they just did not disclose their asset, so they will get the immunity from both penalty and prosecution if they just pay a fee of 1 lakh rupees. Okay, now coming to the next question, try to answer this question. This is regarding the Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana and the Divyang Sahara Yojana. Both these schemes, both these programs are very, very important from the examination point of view. If you are preparing for RBI or NABARD, this is important. Try to answer this, that consider the following statements regarding Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana and Divyang Sahara Yojana. Kaushal is basically skills. Sahara is basically support. So for Divyangjan, for the skills, there is Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana. For the Divyang, the support that is provided, there is Divyang Sahara Yojana. So by these, you can understand the basic idea behind the schemes. Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana focuses on providing industry relevant and customized skill training for Divyangjans in sectors such as IT, AVCG, AVGC, hospitality, food and beverages. So this is correct because the Kaushal is about the skill training. Okay, Divyang Sahara Yojana proposes strengthening the PM Divyasha Kendra and setting up assistive technology marts to improve the access to the assistive devices. So this is the support that the government is focusing on. The third is under Divyang Sahara Yojana, support to LMCO is limited only to the distribution of assistive devices and excludes the R&D or AI integration. This is wrong. Under the support to LMCO, that is the device. So under the support to LMCO, this is not limited to the distribution of the assistive devices. This also focuses on the research and development. It also includes research and development and AI integration. So the third one is wrong. So answer is A, that is 1 and 2. So remember, Divyangjan Kaushal Yojana, here the skill training will be provided to the Divyangjans, okay, as per the suitability. Divyang Sahara Yojana, timely access to high quality assistive devices, as well as there is the support that is provided for the Artificial Limbs Manufacturing Corporation of India, that is LIMCO. For that, there is support that is provided to scale up production of assistive devices and invest in research and development and AI integration. Okay, so this is the idea. Strengthen the PM Divyasha Kendra and support setting up of assistive technology marts as modern retail style centers so that the people or Divyangjans can easily access the assistive technology. Coming to the next question, again, this is for the IFSC. So try to answer this question. Now to enhance the competitiveness of the IFSC, the Union Budget proposes changes in tax incentives for units located in IFSC and for the offshore banking units. Which of the following statements is correct? Anyone? So here remember that to enhance the competitiveness of IFSC, it is said that there will be a deduction that is proposed to be allowed for 20 consecutive years out of 25 years for IFSC units and 20 consecutive years for OBUs, that is offshore banking units. So till now, the income tax rebate or exemption that is provided is that the income tax holiday or income tax exemption is available for 10 consecutive years out of the 15 years. Now you can understand that out of the 15 years previously, 10 years out of the 15 years, 10 years of 10 consecutive years, the tax exemption could be taken. Now out of the 25, now it is proposed that out of the 25 years, 20 consecutive years, there can be tax exemption. So nearly double of the benefit is going to be provided. So this is the idea that to increase the competitiveness of the IFSC, the International Financial Service Center, that we only have one. Where is it located? Anyone can tell me where the one IFSC is located. Now to increase the competitiveness of the International Financial Service Center of India, it is proposed to increase the period of deduction under section 147 to 20 consecutive years. So tax holiday will be provided for 20 consecutive years out of the 25 years for units in IFSC and 20 consecutive years for offshore banking units. Now previously there was the tax exemption for or tax holiday for 10 consecutive years out of the batch of 15 years. It is also proposed that the business income of these units from IFSC after expiry of period of deduction, so after the expiry of the 20 consecutive years, will be taxed at rate of 15% only. So after these 20 consecutive years end, after the tax holiday ends, after that for further years, there will be the tax that will be taken at 15% only. Yes, the IFSC, we have only one IFSC, that is the GIFT IFSC, Gujarat International Financial Tech City IFSC in Gujarat. Okay. Now coming to the next one. Now this question is again, now this part is again important. Coming to the next one, the budget 2026-27 introduces the Biopharma Shakti initiative to position India as a global biopharma hub. The strategy involves a proposed outlay of how much crores over the 5 years. So there is the outlay, the proposed outlay of how much for the 5 years. Now such kind of initiative schemes, they are important for phase 1, for phase 2. A paragraph based question can come on this Biopharma Shakti, and Gurkirat sir will be taking detailed session on the schemes that are mentioned in the budget. Okay, so basically remember the outlay that has been decided in the budget or that has been announced in the budget, that is 10,000 crores. It is 10,000 crores. Okay, so the strategy involves a proposed outlay of 10,000 crores over the next 5 years, and it is also said that the biopharma focused network will be created with 3 new national institutes of pharmaceutical education and research, and upgrading the 7 existing ones. So the focus is given to the biopharma as well as the education and research in the pharmaceutical. Okay. So 10,000 crore is the outlay for the Biopharma Shakti. Coming to the next question, that under the infrastructure development proposals for waterways, the union budget targets the operationalization of 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Which of the following national waterways is proposed to be operationalized first under this initiative? So the initiative is taken to operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years. Under this, there is the first waterway that will be operationalized will be, yes, National Waterway 5 Odisha. So this is the idea that to promote environmentally sustainable movement of cargo, the finance minister proposed to establish new dedicated freight corridors connecting Dankuni in the east to Surat in the west, operationalize 20 new national waterways over the next 5 years, starting with the National Waterway 5 in Odisha to connect the mineral-rich areas of Talcher and Angul and industrial centers. Okay, so this is the idea. Coming to the next question, now this is from this part. Regarding the coastal cargo promotion scheme. So there is the coastal cargo promotion scheme. Basically, the most of the transportation that happens is through the roadways and railways. Now it is said that to reduce the burden on the roadways and railways and to promote the transportation through the waterways, there is the coastal cargo promotion scheme. The budget sets a specific target for increasing the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping in the model mix of the railways and roadways. What is this target? What is the target that is set? So basically the focus is given, or the promotion is done for the inland waterways and the cargo movement or the cargo transportation through the inland waterways. The target is to increase the share of the cargo transportation through the inland waterways from 6% to 12% by 2047. So this is a big target that has been taken. So launch under the budget, there is the launch of a coastal cargo promotion scheme for incentivizing a model shift from railways and roadways to increase the share of inland waterways and coastal shipping from 6% to 12% by 2047. So there is in the model mix, right now the roadways and railways is the prominent part. So now it has been said that we also have to focus on the coastal cargo. Okay, and inland waterways. Coming to the next question, that Union Budget 2026-27 aims to further amplify the potential of cities to deliver the economic power of agglomeration by mapping the city economic regions based on their specific growth drivers. So what is the allocation that is done for the city economic regions for the 5-year time period for implementing the budget plans? So basically the idea is that there is the need for city economic regions or for the development of the cities. Tier 2, tier 3 cities have to be developed so that the pressure from the tier 1 cities can reduce and can move to the tier 2 and tier 3. So city economic regions are being developed, are being promoted And here the allocation has been done. Yes, very good. 5,000 crores. The allocation of 5,000 crores has been done. So cities are India's engines of growth, innovation and opportunities. We shall focus on the tier 2 and tier 3 cities and to amplify the potential of the cities to deliver the economic power by mapping the city economic regions with their growth drivers. So the cities, they have specific growth drivers. Some can be the tourism cities, some can be the production hubs and such. So with the city economic regions, we have to identify the specific growth drivers, and there is the allocation of 5,000 crores per CER per city economic region over 5 years. So per city economic region will get the allocation of 5,000 crores over the 5 years. This is proposed for implementing the plans. Okay. Coming to the next question, that is to support the carbon capture, utilization and storage roadmap, the Union Budget 2026-27 proposes an outlay of 20,000 crore for the CCUS. Which of the following sets correctly list the 5 industrial sectors covered under this initiative? So carbon capture and utilization and storage, by the name itself you can understand that the carbon capture, utilization and storage, these are the technologies that reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the particular industries. So it is said that the government is going to support further the carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies, and these kind of technologies will be provided to which sectors? To power, steel, cement, refineries and chemicals, from where the greenhouse gases usually like release. A lot of greenhouse gases releases from these particular industries, and these industries will get the support of the government in consideration of the carbon capture, utilization and storage. Okay, so aligning with the roadmap launched in December 2025, basically it has been said that an outlay of 20,000 crore is provided over the next 5 years, will be provided over the next 5 years. This has been proposed to support the large scale deployment of the carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies that helps in the carbon capture, that helps in the reduction of the greenhouse gases that is released from the industries. Okay, so carbon capture, utilization of the gases and the storage. If the gases cannot be cleaned, cannot be utilized, so there is the requirement of storing the greenhouse gases so that they are not released to the environment. Okay, so the support will be provided by the government for the large scale deployment of the CCUS technologies to reduce the industrial carbon emissions. And particularly 5 industrial sectors have been identified for providing these kind of technologies: power, steel, cement, refineries and chemicals. Power, steel, cement, refineries and chemicals. Coming to the next question, the budget 2026-27 proposes to increase the outlay for the electronics components manufacturing scheme to capitalize on the strong momentum in the electronics component domain. So the original outlay was 22,919 crore, which is increased to what now? So the new proposed outlay is how much? It is 40,000 crore. It is 40,000 crore. Very good. So basically the electronics component, it is having a strong momentum, and to like back on that momentum, to benefit from that momentum, the outlay has been increased for the electronic component manufacturing scheme. The outlay has been increased from 22,000 crore to 40,000 crore. That is the idea. Coming to the next one, that is regarding the foreign investment framework reform. The budget proposes to enhance the investment limits for the person resident outside India. Person resident outside India are the non-resident Indians, the overseas citizen of India, or the overseas citizen that are having the Indian basis, as well as the foreign nationals or the individuals. Okay, so person resident outside India are all the individuals that are resident outside India. It can be non-resident Indians, overseas citizens of India and foreign nationals. So before, the NRIs and the overseas citizens, they were allowed to invest in the equity, they were allowed to invest in the shares in the Indian market, in the Indian financial market, in the Indian companies. Now it has been said that all the PROIs, that is even the foreign nationals, before the foreign nationals, they had to take the help of the foreign portfolio investors, before they had to take the help of the FPIs to invest in India. But now it has been said that all the PROIs will be allowed to invest directly in the equity, in the shares in the Indian listed companies. So even these foreign nationals that had to take the help of foreign portfolio investors, now the foreign nationals, the foreign individuals can directly invest in the shares uh, in the Indian listed companies. This is the idea. Okay. So regarding the foreign investment framework reform, the budget proposes to enhance the investment limit for person resident outside India. The overall limit for all individuals PROIs is increased from 10% to 24%. From 10% to 24%. So basically, individual person resident outside India, the individuals that are person resident outside India, let it be the non-resident Indians, overseas citizen of India, or the foreign nationals. So before, the foreign nationals, they were not allowed to invest in the equity, in the shares of the listed Indian company directly, but now all the PROIs, they are directly permitted to invest in equity instruments of listed Indian companies through the portfolio investment scheme. And before, the limit for the investment in the equity was 5%, which has been increased to 10% now, because now the foreign nationals can also invest in the equity. So it is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10%. So the limit has been increased to 10% for the individual person resident outside India for investment. Okay. With an overall investment limit for all individual PROIs. So for all individual PROIs, the limit has been increased to 24% from the 10%. So for individual PROI, the limit was 5%, which has been increased to 10% for the individual PROI. And for the all overall investment limit for all PROIs, this has been increased from 10% to 24%. This is important. Specifically, now you have the SEBI exam that is very near, so it is important from the SEBI perspective that individual person resident outside India, all of the individual person resident outside India, they are permitted to invest in the equity instrument of listed Indian companies through the portfolio investment scheme. It is also proposed to increase the investment limit for an individual PROI under the scheme from 5% to 10%, and for all the PROIs collectively, overall investment limit is proposed to be increased from 10% to 24%. Okay. Coming to the next question, that in a bid to secure critical raw materials, the budget proposes supporting mineral-rich states to establish rare earth permanent magnet corridors. Which of the following states are explicitly identified for these corridors, for the rare earth corridors? So which of the states have been identified for these rare earth corridors? So it is Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. These are the states that have been identified for the rare earth corridors. Okay. Very good, Saurabhi. Correct. So a scheme for rare earth permanent magnets was launched in November 2025. We now propose to support the mineral rich states of Odisha, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu under this scheme to establish dedicated rare earth corridor to promote mining, processing, research and manufacturing. Okay. So this is the idea. Next is arrange the following top 3 sources of government revenue under rupee comes from. So rupee comes from various areas. What are the top 3 areas from which rupee comes from under the government revenue? So government gets the revenue receipts, the government gets the capital receipts. Under the revenue receipts, there are taxes and non-tax revenue. Right? So the rupee comes from the revenue receipts. So what are the top 3 revenue receipts basically for the government? Income tax, corporation tax and the GST and other taxes. Very good. So see, basically the rupee comes from borrowings and liabilities. Okay, the rupee comes from the borrowings and liabilities. The rupee, so this has the major portion. Then there is the income tax, the second highest part from where the rupee is coming from is income tax. So let's say if you have 1 rupees, 24 paisa is coming from borrowings and liabilities, 21 paisa is coming from income tax, then 18 paisa is coming from corporation tax and 15 paisa is coming from GST and other taxes. So this is the basic idea. Okay. And under the government receipts, there are the revenue receipts and there are the capital receipts. So borrowings, liabilities, all of this comes under capital receipts, while the revenue receipts consist of the taxes. And the non-tax revenue receipts that are regular receipts. Okay, so the highest taxes that the government has received is the income tax, then corporation tax, then the GST and other tax. Okay, now arrange the top 3 expenditure heads under rupees goes to. So now rupees coming from the borrowings and liabilities, income tax, corporation tax, GST and other taxes. Now rupees goes to how, where the government is spending mostly. So that you have to answer. Rupees goes to in descending order, that is from highest to lowest as per the budget 2026-27. So you have to arrange. So the highest expenditure is in the interest payments or the state's share of taxes or the defense. So the highest expenditure is in the state's share of taxes. After that, the second highest expenditure is on the interest payment and the third highest expenditure is on the defense. Okay, so this is the answer, that the expenditure, the highest is state's share of taxes, then interest payment, then defense. Okay, so if the government has 1 rupee, 22 paisa will go to the state's share of taxes, then second highest is interest payments, 20 paisa is going to the interest payments, and the third highest is defense, 11 paisa is going to the defense. Okay, now which of the following correctly list the top 5 sectors in terms of expenditure highest to lowest under expenditure of major items as per budget 2026-27. So the expenditure that the government is doing, in the expenditure, the categories, like there are different sectors, so where the government is spending the highest. It is actually transport, defense, rural development, home affairs, agriculture and rural allied activities. So C is the answer. Which of the following correctly lists the top 5 sectors? Here we are talking about the sectors. So government spends a lot for transport, then defense, rural development, home affairs, agriculture and allied activities. So expenditure of major items, first transport, then defense, then rural development, then home affairs, and then the agriculture and allied activities. So this is how the government is spending. Okay. Now coming to the next question. As per budget 2026-27, what is the formula of effective revenue deficit? What is the formula of effective revenue deficit and its percentage of GDP? Such kind of question has come in the phase 1 of SEBI, in which the formula was asked and there was also the percentage that was asked. Or such kind of question was in the phase 2 of RBI. I'm getting confused. But this kind of question was in the examination where the formula was asked. I think it was in phase 2 of RBI. So such kind of question came where the formula was asked as well as the percentage was also asked. Okay. So this also you need to have the idea that what are the formulas, and the formulas are given in the budget itself, in the budget document itself. Okay. So what is the formula of effective revenue deficit? It is the revenue deficit minus the grants for the creation of capital asset. So revenue deficit minus the grants for the creation of capital asset, and the effective revenue deficit had the percentage of 0.3% of GDP. So B is the answer here. Okay. So as I've told you that the formulas are given in the union budget document. So fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure and total receipts excluding the debt capital receipts or excluding the borrowings. Okay. Then the fiscal deficit, it shows the total borrowing requirement of the government. Revenue deficit is revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. Effective revenue deficit is revenue deficit minus grants in aid for the creation of capital asset. Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payments. Effective capital expenditure is equal to the capital expenditure that the government is doing plus the grants for the creation of capital asset. The capital expenditure that the central government is doing plus the grants that has been given for the creation of capital asset. This comes under effective capital expenditure. Okay. Now the deficit trends, you can see that the deficits have mostly reduced. Okay. And here the deficit for fiscal deficit for 2026-27 budget estimate. So we will discuss the estimated or the projected deficits for 2026-27. 4.3% for the fiscal deficit, 1.5% revenue deficit, 0.7% primary deficit, 0.3% effective revenue deficit That is something that you have to remember. Okay, coming to the next question. Now this is again important because this is directly related to your tax reforms. Regarding minimum alternate tax reforms in budget 2026-27, the minimum alternate tax rate has been reduced from 15% to what percentage? So minimum alternate tax, this has to be given by the corporates. So basically what happens that, let's say the profit that has been received, or the profit is booked at 100 crores, but because this is the profit, this is the total profit, high profit that the company has got, but the company under the old tax regime, the company is showing various deductions, the company is showing various exemptions, or the company is showing various kind of incentives, like the investment incentive that the company has got. So these profit, after taking the deductions, after taking the incentives and such, this profit has reduced to the taxable income of only 40 crores. So on the 40 crores, the tax has to be paid. And let's say that company is paying very less taxes, the company is getting to pay only 8 crores or only 5 crores the tax the company is paying. So the minimum alternate tax, it ensures that a company pay a minimum tax, a minimum viable tax in years when its normal tax liability may be low because of the deductions, because of the incentives that the company has shown. Maybe the tax liability is less, it is only 5 crores, it is only 8 crores, even after having the high book profits. So if the company has very high book profits, but the company is paying very low taxes because of the deductions or incentives that it has shown, so to make the company pay a minimum viable tax, there is the minimum alternate tax. So when the company is paying very less normal tax liability, then the company will have to pay the minimum alternate tax, that is reduced from 15% to 14%. Now the minimum alternate tax has been reduced from 15% to 14%. Okay, so this is the idea. First of all, see, let's say book profit is 100 crores, while the taxable income is only 40 crores because the company has shown various deductions, the company has shown various incentives and the depreciation as such and such. So from the book profit of 100 crores, only the taxable income is 40 crores, while the tax is usually levied on whole of the profit. The tax is taken on the profit income, but because of the deductions and incentives and such, the taxable income is only 40 crores and the normal tax of 22% on 40 crores is 8.8 crores. A very small tax is being paid on the profit of 100 crores. So that is not right. That's why the minimum alternate tax was introduced, that at least this is the minimum tax that has to be paid when the normal tax is less than the minimum alternate tax. Then the minimum alternate tax, that is of 15%. So rather than paying 22% on the book profit, you have to pay the 15% on the book profit. So that 15 crores of tax you will have to pay. Now, whatever is the extra tax, because the normal tax liability was lower because of the deductions, because of the incentives, the normal tax liability was lower than the minimum alternate tax. So you paid the minimum alternate tax, the company paid the minimum alternate tax. So whatever extra the tax has been paid, that is the 6.2 crores. This is taken as MAT credit. This is taken as minimum alternate tax credit. That can be used. So this extra 6.2 crores that you have paid, it has not vanished. The company has paid the extra 6.2 crores. This has not vanished. This is provided to the company as a credit that the company can use when its normal tax is higher than the minimum alternate tax. Then this MAT credit can be used. So this 6.2, let's say you are paying the normal tax, a higher normal tax of 20 crores, that is higher than the 15 crores. So then this MAT credit of 6.2 crores can be used to balance out the higher tax. This is the idea. Now what was happening, that this MAT credit, this was complicated to understand, and this was making the calculations very complicated and the compliance also very complicated. So now it has been said that there will be no MAT credit that will be provided from future perspective. Now the MAT is proposed to be made a final tax, that if the normal tax is lower than the MAT has to be paid and there will be no credit that will be provided in the future. Now, to provide the relaxation to the businesses, the MAT that was before 15%, it has been reduced to 14%. Okay, so MAT is proposed to be made final tax so that there is no credit that will be provided in the future. So there will be no further credit accumulation from 1st April 2026. In line with this change, the rate of final tax has been reduced from 15% to 14%. So whenever your normal tax is very low, the MAT will be taken at 14% on your book profit. Okay, so this is the idea. The brought forward now MAT credits that have been left with the company. What will happen to that? Let's say the company already has the MAT credit of 6.2 crores from the previous year. So this can be carried forward, but this can be used only when the company shift to the new regime. So if you shift to the new regime, then you can use your MAT credit in the future, and the MAT credit can only let's say your tax liability is 20 crores. So only 25% of the MAT credits can be used at one time. This is the basic idea, that only 25% of MAT credit can be used. Only 25% of this can be used in 1 year. This is the idea. I hope this is clear. It is important from the SEBI perspective and RBI perspective. Okay, so MAT, that is the minimum alternate tax percentage, has been reduced from 15% to 14%. It has been made final tax so that there will be no credit that will be provided from 1st April 2026 onwards, as well as the previous MAT credits can be carried forward, but they can only be used if the company shift to the new regime, and the MAT credit can be used 25% in 1 year. In 1 year, 25% of the MAT credit can be used. So these are the important ideas. Now coming to the last few questions. A high-powered education to employment and enterprise. A high-powered education to employment and enterprise standing committee is proposed to set up to recommend the measures that focus on service sector as the core driver of the Viksit Bharat. This will make us a global leader in services with a dash percentage of global share by 2047. So the target is that we need to have, or we should have, dash percentage of global share by 2047. 10%. Very good. So high powered education. So the answer is 10%. So basically the Union Finance Minister proposed to set up the high-powered education to employment and enterprise standing committee to recommend measures that focus on service sector as core driver to Viksit Bharat, and this will make us, that is India, a global leader in services export and such, with a 10% of global share by 2047. Okay. Now coming to the question regarding the IT sector. Tax reforms in budget 2026-27 to recognize it as a growth engine. Consider the following. So the IT sector tax reforms have been brought in budget 2026-27 to recognize it as a growth engine. So basically remember that when the IT sector, it is exporting its services, the IT sector put a price on its services. If it gets a safe harbor margin, that means if it gets a profit margin of 15.5%, then whatever price the IT sector has stated will be considered a fair price. If it is having the profit margin of 15.5%, there will be no audit or no investigation that will happen. But if it is not able to have this safe harbor margin, if it is not able to have the profit margin while exporting the services, while providing the services, then if it does not have the profit margin of 15.5%, then it will be under investigation, or there can be audit that can happen against the company. So remember that when the IT company, it is exporting its services, it is providing its services to a foreign company, that can be a foreign parent company. The IT company might provide the services to the parent company at very cheap rate, and maybe the IT company in India can have losses. So to not have this kind of situation, it is said that if the IT company is providing the services to its foreign company parent, then at least the profit margin should be 15.5%. Then there will be no audit that will happen on the IT company in regards to the pricing policy. Because the company is having a good profit margin of 15.5%. But if the profit margin is not 15.5%, that means there is no safe harbor. Safe harbor has not been achieved. In this case, the audit can happen on the IT company in India that you are not pricing your services correctly, okay, just to benefit the foreign company, just to benefit the parent company. So basically IT enabled services, knowledge process outsourcing services, contract, research and development services relating to software development are proposed to be clubbed under a single category of information technology services. The clubbed information technology services will have a common safe harbor margin of 15.5%, 15.5% that is applicable to all. So the Indian IT companies, the IT companies in India, basically the IT companies in India, if they have the safe harbor margin, if they have the safe harbor margin, that means if they have the profit margin of 15.5%, so their pricing policy will not be audited. There will be no investigation that will be conducted against the pricing policy, even if they are providing the services to their parent foreign company. But if the profit margin is not 15.5%, if the profit margin is not under the safe harbor limit, that means this much of profit is not being earned, less profits are being earned, then the pricing policy or the prices can be audited, can be investigated against and such. The threshold for safe harbor applicability before this kind of safe margin of 15.5% of profits, this kind of safe margin was allowed for the IT companies that were having the international transactions of 300 crores. So for small IT companies, this kind of safe harbor margin was provided. But now it has been stated that even for the mid and the large IT companies that are doing the international transactions of 2000 crore, till then also the safe harbor margin can be applicable. Okay, so this is the idea. So supporting the IT sector as India's growth engine. So India is a global leader in the software development services. So basically, if the Indian IT entity earns more than or equal to 15.5% of operating margin, profit margin on eligible international transaction, no transfer pricing audit will happen, no disputes, the price is deemed fair. Companies with transactions up to 2000 crore of the, companies with international transactions up to 2000 crore can have this safe harbor margin, Okay, so this safe harbor margin, that is no investigation or audit. If you are getting the profit margin of 15.5%, this will be applicable for the companies that are having the international transaction up to 2000 crore rupees also. Okay, so this is the idea. Now this is the homework question 1. I will give you 3 homework questions. Then we will discuss, at the end of the session, then we will discuss some graphs that is important for your understanding. Just 5 minutes more. Okay. So first of all, this is the first homework question. I hope you will be easily able to answer this question. The AVCG, that is animation, visual effects, gaming, comics sector, this comes under which economy? Blue, green, gig, orange or circular economy. Okay. Then next homework question, we have discussed about the development of the high value agriculture. We have discussed this, right? And we discussed that agar trees in which area, walnuts and almonds of which area, cocoa and cashew in which area. So you just have to do the match. This we have already discussed. As well as we have discussed that under the union budget, there was the announcement that was given that there will be complete removal of the current value cap of how much for the consignment of on courier exports. So this is also what we have discussed in the session itself. So I've brought these questions so that let's see how much you remember from the session. Now these are the 3 homework questions. I hope you will be able to answer the questions in the comment section. Now before ending the session, we are towards the end, but before ending the session, let me tell you that trend in tax receipts. So the from the total tax receipts, the higher tax receipts are from the direct tax, that is income tax, corporate tax, and 4.3% of the total tax receipts, it comes from indirect tax. Okay. Then if we discuss about the net receipt of center in lakh crore rupees, so it was 36.5 lakh crore rupees. Okay, this is something that you do not have to remember. What you have to remember is that out of the net receipt of the center, the higher portion is of the tax net to center. Okay, so tax has the higher out of the net receipts of center, the highest portion is of tax, that is net to center, that is tax to the center. Okay, then the second highest is non-tax revenue, that is from the dividends that the government is receiving or the fees, fines that the government is receiving. And then next is non-debt capital receipts. So this is the idea. Here we have not included the borrowings and the liabilities and such. So this is the basic idea that the net receipt of the center, that the center has received from the regular sources as well as from non-debt sources. The government has received the highest from the tax. That is understandable. Then coming to the composition of revenue and capital expenditure. So the highest portion of the total expenditure is, out of the total expenditure, the highest portion is going for the revenue expenditure. The highest portion is going for the revenue expenditure, and the second highest portion is going for the capital expenditure, of course. But you can understand that out of the total expenditure, a huge 67.9% is going for the revenue expenditure and only 22.8% is going for the capital expenditure. In the capital expenditure, like you can see that the growth in the capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP was 3.1%. So there is 3.1% of GDP that is going to the capital expenditure. Okay, so there is growth in the capital expenditure as well as like the growth that has happened from 2022-23, but here you can see that 3.1% of GDP, it is going for the capital expenditure, and grant in aid for the capital expenditure, it is 1.3% of the GDP. So effective capital expenditure, I have told you, effective capital expenditure is capital expenditure plus grants for the creation of capital asset. Okay, so effective capital expenditure is 3.1% of the GDP for 2026-27. It is estimated, or it is projected at 3.1% of GDP, while the grant for the creation of capital asset, it is 1.3% of the GDP. That is stated. Okay. Any confusion here? Public capital expenditure has increased manifold from 2 lakh crore in financial year 2014-15 to an allocation of 11.2 lakh crore in 2025-26, and proposed allocation for 2026-27 is 12.2 lakh crore. Public capital expenditure, that is for the schools, hospitals, for the public infrastructure, basically. This is the idea. So these are the diagrams that were given additionally in the budget document. So I have brought it for you. Tax receipts, they are majorly from the direct tax. Okay, net receipt of the center, in which we are not considering the borrowings or the liabilities. So then the highest receipt of the center is from the tax, then from the non-tax, and then from the non-debt capital receipts. Non-debt capital receipts. Then when we talk about the expenditure of the government, out of the total expenditure of the government, 67.9% is going for the revenue expenditure and 22.8% is going for the capital expenditure. In the capital expenditure, the capital expenditure is 3.1% of GDP. This is estimated for 2026-27, and the grants for the capital expenditure is 1.3% of the GDP for 2026-27. So the effective capital expenditure, you can see it will be rising. Okay, that is it. Chalo, this is it. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining the session. I hope you enjoyed the session. Do comment down below the answers of the 3 homework questions. So the 3 homework questions that have been given to you, do write the answer in the comment section. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed the session. I did put a lot of efforts, like I've gone through the whole of the budget speech and I brought the important points for all of you. The different documents were provided for the budget, and I hope that you like the session. All the very best for your upcoming exams, as well as do give the right answer of the homework question.